The transport ship broke through the clouds of 5, and Park pressed his face against the window like a child seeing snow for the first time. Below him stretched a world of purple forests and silver oceans. 3 moons hung in the orange sky. He had seen many things in his 28 years of life, but nothing like this. "Lieutenant, we are landing in 10 minutes, said the pilot through the speaker. Turned to look at his squad. 12 humans sat in the transport bay, all of them wearing the dark blue uniforms of the United Earth Defense Corps. They were the first humans ever invited to train at the Academy, the most famous military school in the entire galaxy. It was the year 2347, and humanity had finally joined the Galactic Coalition after decades of waiting. Sergeant sat across from him, cleaning her rifle for the 3rd time that hour. She was 30 years old, with short black hair and eyes that never seemed to blink. She was the fastest soldier had ever worked with, and he trusted her with his life. "Stop cleaning that thing," said Corporal from beside her. "You are making me nervous." "I am always nervous," replied without looking up. "That is why I am still alive." The transport shook as it entered the atmosphere. Private, the youngest member of the squad at 22, grabbed her seat and closed her eyes. She had never been good with flying. Medic reached over and patted her arm. "We are almost there," said softly. "Just breathe." The ship landed with a heavy thump, and the rear doors opened. Hot air rushed into the transport bay, carrying strange smells that could not name. He stood up and straightened his uniform. "Remember why we are here," he said to his squad. "We represent all of humanity. Whatever happens, we do not quit. We do not complain. We show them what humans can do." The squad nodded and followed him out of the ship. The academy was enormous. Buildings made of white stone rose into the sky, connected by bridges and walkways. Thousands of beings moved through the grounds, and saw species he had only read about in reports. There were the tall creatures with 4 arms and heads that could turn in any direction. There were the amphibious hunters with wet green skin and teeth like needles. And there were the insect-like species that had founded this academy 3,000 years ago. A stood waiting for them at the landing pad. He was taller than, with a hard black shell covering his body and 4 arms folded across his chest. His head was triangular, with large compound eyes that reflected the light like mirrors. When he spoke, his mandibles clicked together in a way that made skin crawl. "I am Commander," they said. "I am the chief instructor of combat training. You are the humans." It was not a question. "Yes," Commander said. "I am Lieutenant Park. We are honored to be here." His mandibles clicked again. Could not tell if it was laughter or something else. "Honor is earned," said. "Not given. Follow me. Your assessment begins now." He turned and walked away without waiting for a response. Exchanged a look with, then led his squad after the commander. The assessment hall was a large circular room filled with strange machines. Other recruits were already there, dozens of them from different species. They all turned to look at the humans as they entered. Kept his face calm, but he could feel their eyes on him. He could see the curiosity in some faces, and in others he could see something that looked like pity. "Today we test your basic combat readiness," announced to the room. "Speed, reaction time, accuracy. These are the foundations of all warriors. Step forward when your name is called." The tests began. Watched as alien recruits stepped onto platforms and faced challenges that seemed impossible. Lights flashed, targets appeared and disappeared in the blink of an eye, and the recruits responded with movements so fast that could barely follow them. A recruit completed the reaction test in 85 milliseconds. The machine announced the result, and several others clicked their mandibles in approval. A scored 72 milliseconds, her 4 arms moving in perfect coordination. Then it was time for the humans. Sergeant went first. She stepped onto the platform and took a deep breath. The test began, lights flashing around her. She moved as fast as she could, her hands striking at targets, her body twisting away from simulated attacks. The machine announced her result: 190 milliseconds. Silence fell over the room. Then the clicking started, realized it was laughter. "Is the machine broken?" asked a recruit, his voice wet and gurgling. "The machine is working correctly," said. He was staring at with his compound eyes. "That is simply the human speed." One by one, the other humans took the test. The results were all the same: 200 milliseconds, 230 milliseconds, 250 milliseconds. Each number brought more clicking, more wet laughter, more looks of disbelief and contempt. Was the last to test. He stepped onto the platform and faced the machine. The test began, and he moved as fast as his body would allow. When it ended, the machine announced his result: 215 milliseconds. Stepped forward and addressed the entire room. "The results are clear," he said. "Human reaction time is approximately 3 times slower than the coalition average, 3 times slower than the minimum standard for combat personnel." He turned to look at directly. "Perhaps your species would be better suited for other roles. Logistics, medical support, combat requires swiftness." The room filled with clicking and hissing sounds of agreement. Stood perfectly still. He did not argue. He did not defend his squad or his species. He simply looked at Commander with calm eyes and said nothing. But inside his mind, he was thinking. He had seen the alien recruits move. He had watched them complete their tests with incredible speed, and he had noticed something that none of them seemed to understand about themselves. They were fast, impossibly fast, but every movement they made was exactly what the test expected. They reacted instantly, but they reacted in patterns. They did not think about their responses. They simply responded. Remembered something his grandfather had told him when he was young. The rabbit is faster than the hunter, but the hunter brings home dinner. He looked at its compound eyes and smiled very slightly. "We are here to learn, Commander," he said. "We will do our best." His mandibles clicked once. "See that you do," he said. "Dismissed." As the human squad walked back to their barracks, fell into step beside. "That was humiliating," she said quietly. "Yes," agreed. "What are we going to do?" Kept walking, his eyes fixed on the alien buildings around them. Somewhere in this academy, the galaxy's greatest warriors were being trained, and somewhere in his mind, an idea was beginning to form. "We are going to learn," he said, "but not what they want to teach us." Frowned. "What does that mean?" Did not answer. He just kept walking and watching and thinking about rabbits and hunters. 3 weeks passed at the academy, and they were the hardest 3 weeks of his life. Every morning began at dawn. The human squad would wake up to the sound of alarms and rush to the training grounds, where they would join hundreds of alien recruits for exercises. Running, climbing, fighting, shooting. The instructors pushed them hard, and the humans always finished last. It was not that they did not try. They tried harder than anyone. Private pushed herself until she vomited, then got up and kept going. Corporal trained until his hands bled from gripping weapons. Warrant officer had stayed up late every night studying tactics and strategy, trying to find any advantage she could. But it was never enough. The aliens were simply faster. In every drill, every exercise, every simulated battle, the humans were too slow. By the time a human soldier raised his weapon, an alien opponent had already fired 3 shots. By the time a human dodged, the attack had already landed. In the simulated combat exercises, the humans died within 30 seconds, every single time. "This is pointless," said Private First Class Shin one evening. He was sitting on his bed in the barracks, staring at the ceiling. "We cannot beat them. They are too fast." "We knew they would be fast," said from her desk. "We were told this before we came." "Knowing and experiencing are different things," replied. "I have never felt so useless in my life." Sat in the corner watching his squad. He could see the defeat in their eyes. 3 weeks of failure had broken something inside them. They had come here as proud soldiers, representatives of humanity. Now they felt like jokes. "Tell me about today's exercise," said quietly. Groaned, "Why? So we can feel even worse." "Tell me what happened," repeated. Corporal spoke up. "We faced a squad in urban combat simulation, standard building clearing exercise. They hit us before we even knew they were there. I got killed first. Some trainee jumped out of a doorway and shot me in the chest before I could blink." "What did you do when you saw him?" asked. Frowned. "I tried to dodge, I moved left, but he had already calculated where I would go. His second shot hit me in the side." Leaned forward. "So he shot where you were going to be, not where you were." "Yes, that is how they all fight. They see us, they calculate our movement, and they shoot where we will be. By the time we react, we are already dead." Silence fell over the barracks. Then Private spoke up. Her voice was soft, like she was thinking out loud. "But you did not die on the first shot. You made him miss once." Blinked. "So, he still killed me." "But you made him miss," repeated. "How did you do that?" Thought about it. "I do not know. I just moved different than I planned to. I was going to dodge right, but at the last moment I went left instead. I changed my mind." The room went quiet. Felt something spark in his chest. He stood up and walked to the center of the barracks. "Tomorrow," he said, "I want everyone to pay attention to something during training. Do not try to win. Do not try to survive. Just watch the aliens. Watch how they move. Watch how they decide." "What are we looking for?" asked. "Patterns," said. "Habits, the things they do without thinking." The next day the humans watched. They still lost every exercise, but this time they were not trying to win. They were studying, watching, learning. And slowly they began to see something. The aliens were incredibly fast. Their reflexes were beyond anything humans could match. But their speed came with a cost. When it decided to attack, he committed completely. His body moved before his mind could reconsider. When it calculated a dodge, she went exactly where her calculations told her, every single time. They did not hesitate. They did not doubt. They did not change their minds. That evening, Medic came to the barracks with a full of research. "I have been studying their biology," she said. "The coalition species, especially the fast ones. I think I understand why they are the way they are." She pulled up images of alien brains on her. "Their neural systems are designed for speed," she explained. "When they see a threat, their brain calculates the best response and sends the signal to their body almost instantly. There is no delay, no second guessing. They see, they calculate, they act." "That sounds like an advantage," said. "It is," agreed. "But it also means they cannot change their minds. Once they commit to an action, their bodies are already moving. They cannot stop. They cannot adjust. They are like arrows. Once released, they fly straight." Nodded slowly. "And humans?" Smiled slightly. "Human brains are different. We evolved as prey animals hunted by creatures faster than us. Our ancestors survived not by being fast, but by being unpredictable. Our brains continue processing information even after we start moving. We can change direction mid-step. We can adjust our aim mid-shot. We are slower, but we are flexible." "We are not arrows," said. "We are what? Water." "Maybe," said. "Water changes shape. Water flows around obstacles. Water finds another way." Stood up and faced his squad. For the first time in weeks, he felt hope. "They have been training us to be faster," he said. "But we will never be faster. That is not a game we can win." He paused. "So we play a different game." "What game?" asked. "We let them commit first. We let them fire their arrows. And then we are not where the arrows land." Shook her head. "That sounds impossible. They are too fast. By the time we see their attack, it has already hit us." "No," said. "By the time we react consciously, it has already hit us, but dodged that first shot without thinking. His body knew where to go before his mind did." He looked around the room. We train that instinct. We practice reading their patterns. We learn to predict what they will do before they do it. Laughed bitterly. You want us to see the future. No, said. I want us to see the present more clearly than they do. They see us and calculate. We see them and adapt. Different skills, different strengths. He walked to the door of the barracks and looked out at the alien buildings glowing under 3 moons. Starting tomorrow, we train differently. Not to be faster, to be smarter, to be water. Behind him, his squad exchanged uncertain looks, but somewhere deep inside each of them, a small flame of hope had begun to burn again. The humans began their secret training at night. After the official exercises ended and the alien recruits returned to their quarters, squad gathered in an empty storage room they had found in the basement of their building. The room was dark and dusty, filled with old equipment that no one used anymore. It was perfect. First, we need to understand what we are doing, said on the first night. We are not trying to be faster, we are trying to be somewhere else. He drew 3 words on the wall with chalk. Accept read move. This is our new doctrine, he said. Accept the first strike, read the pattern, move to where the enemy will not be. Frowned, accept the first strike. That sounds like dying. Not accept as in take the hit, explained. Accept as in allow them to commit. Do not try to dodge immediately. Wait for them to show their hand. Then move. They began with simple drills. Would throw soft balls at his squad members and they would practice not flinching. It was harder than it sounded. Every instinct in their bodies screamed at them to dodge, to run, to protect themselves. But they forced themselves to wait, to watch, to let the ball get close before moving. You are thinking too much, said after watching them struggle. Your conscious mind is trying to control everything, but your body knows what to do. You need to let it work. She introduced meditation exercises from old Earth traditions, breathing techniques, mental focusing methods, ways to quiet the loud voice in their heads so they could hear the quiet voice in their bodies. Slowly, very slowly, they began to improve. Warrant Officer hand-developed targeting software on her personal computer. She analyzed hundreds of hours of combat footage from the Academy's training archives, looking for patterns in how different species moved and attacked. Look at this, she said one night, showing the squad her findings. Always attack in 3-shot patterns. Shot 1 is where you are. Shot 2 is where your species typically dodges to. Shot 3 is a correction. If you break their expected pattern, shot 2 and shot 3 both miss. What about asked? They attack from multiple angles at once, using all 4 arms, but they commit all arms to the same target. If you are not at that target, all 4 attacks miss together. This information changed everything. The humans were not just practicing blind movement anymore. They were learning to predict, to understand, to anticipate. Private First Class Shin brought something else to the training. Before joining the military, he had studied traditional Korean martial arts. Now he taught his ancient techniques that their ancestors had developed centuries ago. In old times, Korean warriors faced enemies with better armor, better weapons, sometimes better training, explained. They survived by moving with their enemies, not against them. You do not block a sword. You guide it past you. You use their strength against them. He showed them how to shift weight at the last moment, how to step into an attack instead of away from it, how to turn a killing strike into a glancing blow with just a small movement. It feels wrong, said after practicing for an hour. Every part of me wants to run away from the attack. That is what they expect, replied. Running away is predictable, moving closer is not. The nights turned into weeks. The human squad trained in secret while maintaining their regular schedule during the day. They still lost every official exercise, still endured the clicking laughter of and the pitying looks of other species. But now they were learning something different, something no one else could see. Their methods into what he called the Delayed Engagement Protocol, or DEP. He wrote it all down in a small notebook that he kept with him at all times. Rule 1. Do not react immediately. Let the enemy commit to an action before you respond. Rule 2. Watch for patterns. Every species, every individual has habits. Learn them. Rule 3. Move unexpectedly. Go where their calculations say you should not go. Rule 4. Use their speed against them. The faster they commit, the harder it is for them to change. Rule 5. Trust your body. Your instincts are millions of years old. Let them guide you. One night, after a particularly hard training session, sat down next to. "Do you think this will actually work?" she asked. "In real combat, I mean, not just practice." Was quiet for a long moment. Outside, 2 of the 3 moons were setting, casting long shadows across the ground. "I do not know," he admitted. "We are trying something that has never been done before. We are betting everything on the idea that being slow can be an advantage." That is not a very confident answer. "No, it is not," turned to look at her. "But what choice do we have? We cannot beat them at their game, so we invent a new game. Maybe we fail. Maybe they laugh at us even more than they already do, but at least we tried something different." Nodded slowly. "My grandmother used to say something. She said that a mouse can kill a cat if the mouse is clever enough." "Your grandmother was wise." "She was a soldier too, fought in the last Earth War," smiled slightly. "She would have liked this, fighting against impossible odds with nothing but cleverness." The midterm assessments were coming in 2 weeks. Commander had already announced that the humans would face a combined squad of trainees, the 2 fastest species in the academy. Everyone expected it to be a slaughter. In their secret training room, the humans practiced harder than ever. They drilled their movements until they became automatic. They studied their enemy until they knew their patterns better than the enemy knew themselves. They prepared for a battle that everyone thought they would lose. But in the darkness of that dusty room, something was changing. The defeated soldiers who had arrived at the academy were gone. In their place stood something new, something unexpected. They were still slow, they were still human, but now they had a weapon that no one else had. They had a doctrine of their own. The day of the midterm assessment arrived under gray skis. Stood at the edge of the combat arena with his squad, looking at the massive urban simulation zone stretched out before them. Fake buildings rose from the ground like a ghost city, complete with streets, alleys, and hiding spots. Somewhere inside that maze, a combined squad of trainees was waiting for them. The observation deck above the arena was packed. Military officials from across the coalition had come to watch. Academy instructors lined the railings. Even representatives from species considering their own integration into the coalition were present, studying how humans performed under pressure. Commander stood in the center of the deck, his compound eyes fixed on the human squad below. "This match is unbalanced," said an observer beside him. Her name was Assessor, and she had 4 eyes that could see in almost every direction. "Humans against and together, some might call this cruel." "War is cruel," replied. "Better they learn their limits here than on a real battlefield." On the ground, gathered his squad together. "Remember what we trained for," he said quietly. "Do not try to be faster, do not panic when they appear, let them commit, read them, then move." "What if it does not work?" asked. Her voice was steady but could see fear in her eyes. "Then we lose," said simply. "But we lose trying something new. That is better than losing the same way everyone expected." The starting signal sounded. The match began. The human squad moved into the fake city carefully, checking corners, watching shadows. Took point with covering their rear. The streets were silent except for their footsteps. Then everything happened at once. A trainee burst from a doorway on his left, moving so fast he was almost a blur. His weapon came up, aimed directly at her chest. In that moment, time seemed to slow down for her. She remembered all those nights in the dusty training room, all those hours of practice. All those words had said. Do not flinch, let them commit, then move. The fired, but in the fraction of a second between his decision to shoot and the shot itself, shifted her weight. Not away from the attack, like her instincts screamed at her to do, but slightly to the side and forward. The shot passed through the space where her chest had been a heartbeat earlier. There was already firing his second shot, aimed at where humans typically dodged, but was not there either. She was closer now, inside his attack range, her own weapon rising. She fired once. The training vest lit up red, signaling elimination. On the observation deck, a murmur ran through the crowd. Did the human just? Assessor leaned forward, all four eyes focused on the arena. Said nothing, his mandibles had stopped clicking. Across the simulation zone, similar scenes played out. A trainee attacked Corporal from behind, all four arms swinging weapons at calculated strike points, but stepped backward into the, jamming her arms before they could build full momentum. His elbow found her midsection, and his return fire eliminated her before she could recalculate. Warrant officer had deliberately exposed herself at the end of a street. Two spotted her and fired instantly, their shots calculated to hit her predicted dodge location, but did not dodge at all. She simply dropped straight down, flat against the ground, as the shots passed over her head. In the moment of confusion that followed, and eliminated both from their hiding spots. The alien squad began to panic. Their reflexes were perfect. Their calculations were flawless, but the humans were not behaving like targets. They were not going where they should go. They were not dying when they should die. A squad leader tried to organize a coordinated attack. He sent 3 of his remaining teammates to flank the humans from different directions, timing their assault to the millisecond. It was a textbook maneuver, executed with precision that would make any instructor proud. But had seen this pattern before, in the footage had studied, in the drills they had watched. He knew what was coming before it came. Hold position, he said calmly into his communicator. Move 3 meters left, with me. The flanking attack came. 3 emerged from 3 directions, weapons firing at calculated positions, and found nothing but empty air. The humans had moved just seconds before, relocating to positions the calculations had not anticipated. Return fire dropped all 3 in 2 seconds. On the observation deck, Assessor stood up from her seat. Impossible, she whispered. They are too slow, this should not be happening. The battle continued. The alien squad, now reduced to less than half their original number, became desperate. They tried new tactics, different approaches, faster attacks, but everything they did followed patterns. Patterns the humans had studied. Patterns the humans could predict. When the simulation finally ended, the timer showed 4 minutes and 23 seconds. 8 humans remained standing. The entire alien squad had been eliminated. Silence fell over the observation deck. Then slowly the clicking started, but this time it was not laughter, it was something else. Something that sounded almost like disbelief. Commander walked slowly to the edge of the deck and looked down at the human squad. Looked back at him, chest heaving with exhaustion but eyes calm and steady. There must be an error in the simulation, said. Recalibrate the system. There is no error, Commander, said Assessor. She was still staring at the humans with her 4 eyes. I watched every second of that match. They adapted, they predicted. They were not faster than our recruits. They were smarter. That is not possible. Human neural processing is 3 times slower than. Speed is not everything, interrupted. I think we have forgotten that. She turned to look at directly. The humans did not try to match our recruits. They played a different game entirely, and they won. Down on the arena floor allowed himself a small smile. Beside him let out a long breath. We did it, she said softly. We actually did it. Nodded, but he knew this was just the beginning. One victory in a training exercise proved nothing. The galaxy was vast, and it was full of enemies far more dangerous than Academy recruits. But today, for the first time, humanity had shown the galaxy something new. The slow species was not helpless. The prey animals had learned to hunt. News of the midterm assessment spread through the coalition like wildfire. At first, many refused to believe it. A squad of slow, clumsy humans defeating the combined might of and trainees. It had to be a mistake, a malfunction in the simulation. Perhaps the humans had cheated somehow. But the footage was clear. Thousands watched the recording of the match, analyzing every movement, every decision, every shot. Military theorists across the galaxy studied the strange techniques the humans had used. They gave it a name, the Delayed Engagement Protocol, DEP for short. Requests for information flooded into the Academy. Species that had always been considered too slow for combat suddenly wanted to know more. Maybe, they thought, there was another way to fight. For and his squad, life at the Academy changed overnight. The clicking laughter stopped. The looks of pity disappeared. Instead, alien recruits approached them with questions, curiosity, and something that looked almost like respect. 3 months after the assessment, everything changed again. A coalition border outpost on the edge of known space sent an emergency signal. Raiders from the hegemony of a hostile empire that had fought the coalition for centuries were attacking in force. The outpost's garrison was overwhelmed, and his squad were stationed there as part of their advanced training. They were supposed to be observing, learning, staying out of the way. But when the raiders smashed through the outer defenses, observation was no longer an option. There were nightmares made real. They had modified their bodies with machines, replacing flesh with metal, nerve with wire. Their cybernetic enhancements gave them reaction times that made even the look slow. They moved like lightning and struck like thunder. But they also fought like every other fast species the humans had trained against. Dep positions ordered his squad through their communicators. Accept, read, move, just like training. They hit the command center like a wave. 47 raiders, each one enhanced beyond natural limits, crashed against 12 humans and a handful of wounded coalition soldiers. Private faced 3 at once. Their enhanced eyes tracked her position perfectly. Their weapons fired in perfect coordination and danced between the shots like water flowing around stones. She did not try to be faster. She simply was not where they expected her to be. Corporal held a corridor alone against 5 raiders. They came at him in sequence, each attack building on the one before, a pattern of death calculated by machine minds. Recognized the pattern by the 3rd attack. By the 4th, he had already moved to counter the 5th. When the 5th charged, was behind him. Warrant Officer Han and medic set up a crossfire position that seemed impossible to hold. They approached from multiple angles, their cybernetic brains calculating firing solutions in microseconds, but were not where the calculations placed them. They moved in patterns the machines could not predict because the patterns were not patterns at all. They were choices, made in real time by minds that could change. For 11 minutes, the battle raged. Raiders fell one by one, unable to understand why their perfect calculations kept failing, why these slow, primitive humans kept surviving. When coalition reinforcements finally arrived, they found the command center still standing. Squad was gathered in the main room, exhausted, wounded, but alive. Around them lay the bodies of 47 raiders. The reinforcement commander, a grizzled veteran named, stood in the doorway and stared at the scene. How, he asked simply, was sitting against a wall, holding a bandage to a wound on his shoulder. He looked up with tired eyes. They committed, he said. We adjusted. His mandibles clicked slowly. That is not an answer. It is the only answer I have. Word of the battle spread even faster than the training exercise. The hegemony had lost 47 enhanced raiders to a squad of humans. Humans, the slowest species in the coalition, the ones everyone had. The coalition military began serious study of human combat techniques. Officers from dozens of species requested training in depth methods. The Academy created a new program called Asymmetric Combat, focused on teaching warriors to fight against faster opponents. Commander, once the loudest voice dismissing human abilities, became the program's lead instructor. "I spent my career believing that speed was everything," he told a class of new recruits one day. "The humans taught me I was wrong. The fastest strike means nothing if it lands on empty air, and the slowest response can still be the last one standing." 1 year after the humans first arrived at the Academy, the Coalition's official combat doctrine was updated. A new subsection was added, flagged as high priority for all combat personnel. Against a human opponent, do not assume commitment advantage. Human neural architecture allows for mid-engagement adaptation at rates that exceed predictive modeling. Recommended approach, coordinated suppression or disengagement. Solo engagement is not advised. Never saw this entry. By then, he and his squad had returned to Earth, where they were training the next generation of human soldiers. The DEP had become standard doctrine for all United Earth Defense Corps personnel. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not by becoming faster, but by becoming something else entirely. On a quiet evening, Sargent was reading through Coalition military reports when she found the updated doctrine entry. She read it 3 times, then laughed out loud. "What is funny?" asked from across the room. Turned her to show him. The galaxy's official advice for fighting humans. They tell everyone not to engage us alone. Read the entry and smiled slightly. Not bad for a species with sluggish reactions. Outside the window, the sun was setting over Earth. The same sun that had watched humanity evolve from prey animals on an African plain. The same sun that had seen them learn to think, to predict, to adapt. The galaxy had many fast species, many strong species, many species with better eyes, better reflexes, better natural weapons. But there was only one species that had learned to survive by being slow on purpose. Only one species that had turned their weakness into strength. Only one species that had taught the galaxy a new way to fight. Somewhere out in the stars, the hegemony of was planning their next attack. Somewhere, faster and stronger enemies were preparing to test humanity again. But in that quiet room on Earth, Lieutenant Park was not worried. The rabbits had learned the hunter's secret, and the galaxy would never look at them the same way again.